4, 3, 2, 1. I told you before to be careful where you put your legs.
I was only trying to be helpful.
I could help myself. What are you waiting for? Come on. Come on. What are you waiting for? Come on. Come on.
For 7 decades, Michael Caine has been among the world's most renowned and recognisable actors.
It was just what I needed. A 1-inch god with a 2-inch penis.
The star of classics like Zulu, The Man Who Would Be King, and The Cider House Rules.
It's a miracle no one was killed.
But also films that brought his career to the brink of complete implosion.
I made a mistake.
Somehow, he has always found a way back.
You're a big man, but you're in bad shape. With me, it's a full-time job.
In this epic podcast series, we will watch and review every Michael Caine movie, from the greatest hits...
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off!
...to the incredible misses.
You failed to maintain your weapon, son.
And take a deep dive into the life and work of one of the world's most recognisable film stars.
His name is Michael Caine, and no one will forget his name.
Behave yourself.
To understand how he has made the mark of Caine.
Well, you all settled in? Right, we can begin. For God's sake, come in!
If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowances for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor look too wise.
Hello and welcome to The Mark of Caine, our ongoing trek through the films of Michael Caine, stopping at all the familiar places, but also to places previously almost completely uncharted by man or beast. Romantic English Woman and Looking at You, Marseille Contract, The Wilby Conspiracy. Jesus, there's a lot of them actually, isn't there? There's an awful lot of them.
Limerick Junctions All.
Limerick Junctions All. That's the voice you hear, Stephen Black in the Mallow News. My name is Michael Foley. Stephen is along with me on all of these movies. And today, Stephen, we're not just talking about a familiar landmark in the Caine story. No, we're talking about one of his wonders, one of his pyramids, a hanging guard, a mighty column of Poseidon, if you will. Was that a wonder? A mighty column of Poseidon?
Maybe to Mrs. Poseidon.
Today is A Man Who Would Be King, Stephen. This is a special one. And it's especially special because you've never seen this before. I didn't think people like you existed.
Yeah, this is one of those rare occasions, I suppose, where whenever it was on television, I was out having a life.
Wow.
Which, again, very rare. But yeah, slipped under the old radar.
Incredible.
Much like Rutger Hauer's playing in The Wilby Conspiracy. See, I'm all about the callbacks today, boy.
Very nice. Very nice. Very, very nice. Do you know what I want to do actually before we go any further? I have to say, I do have to apologise, right? Because was it Wilby or was it the Marseille Contract? You may remember I went through a phase of calling John Heuston John Heuston. John Heuston.
Yeah.
And I fought my corner. You were determined and also correct, to be fair. I was wrong. I was out of order. The man's name is John Heuston. Heuston.
Good. I'm sure that'll come as much comfort to his daughter, Angelica Heuston.
She also is Heuston. I think I was being confused by the city and the late Mrs. Bobby Brown, and the fact that they're spelled differently to John Heuston.
And also both of them pronounce their surnames Heuston.
Totally differently.
Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston. Not Whitney Houston.
There's an O in there.
What?
Houston. Or Houston. Whitney Houston.
It's absolutely Houston.
I don't know. Anyway, John Heuston, apologies. Okay, I take it all back. But now, okay, these are the type of days I long for from the very start of doing this series. This is just to luxuriate in this. I've loads of stories, tons of useless crap will never ever again be useful in any walk of life, only this next whatever long we're going to be talking, half an hour, 40 minutes. So let's dive into this and marvel. Well, I'm going to marvel anyway at the glory and majesty of Caine and Connery, proper school kid adventure caper in an exotic, far-flung place. Caine's favourite film, by the way, of all his output. This, everybody, take a knee, take a bow. is the man who would be king.
There is no place on earth too forbidding. There is no adventure too dangerous to dare. There is no dream of wealth and glory too impossible for the man who would be king. Connery and Caine. Rogue and renegade. Reckless and fearless soldiers of fortune on the richest adventure of their life. Across 1,000 miles of danger, come with Sean Connery and Michael Caine as they try to capture a whole country, a scheme for rascals to become royalty in the long-lost land of Alexander the Great. Rudyard Kipling's The Man Who Would Be King.
Right, I'm going to step back here. I think I've set out my stall about how I feel about this movie. You had never seen this before you watched it for this podcast, so have at it. What do you think of it?
It's a good movie. I enjoyed aspects of it. There's a lot of good things going for it. Beautifully directed, beautifully shot. Caine and Connery are fantastic in it. Has its issues, but overall enjoyed it. And as you say, after the shower of shite that we've been forced to watch for the last few episodes, this was a refreshing bath.
Yes.
Look at the Radox with the liver salts of it's a nice cleanse.
Yes,
a nice movie enema. Just get all that impacted will-be conspiracy and Marseille contract out of our colon, and just put us in a position for hopefully for the next episode where we'll be able to pass things more freely.
We shouldn't actually be mentioning the will-be conspiracy in this. We shouldn't be taking this name in vain. We actually didn't mind that.
Marseille contract 100%.
Yeah. Romantic English woman, dear God, yeah. I'd say they had to get pour more sudsy water up their lads. It's going to take a while to get that out. This is like another world compared to those movies. Yeah. It's like, I mean, obviously in terms of tone and the story and all that, but just in terms of your man's performance, the whole thing is just like it's like opening the drapes on a dark room and just opening the window. The whole thing is just refreshing to watch it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, after what we've had to watch for the last few weeks, it is refreshing to have a movie start and be confident that, casual and blatant racism aside, this is going to be a far more enjoyable journey than the bumpy rides we've been on to date.
I'm just so happy to hear that your customer card has been tick, tick, ticks all the way, all in the kind of very good to excellent, apart, as you say, from some, obviously, the casual racism would have to be.
I want to start off with the casual racism is there from the start because obviously it opens kind of oddly on a pre-credit sequence, setting the tone. Here we are in India, but it's blatantly Morocco. There were about 2 Indians in this movie.
Yeah.
Basically were grabbed from central casting in Morocco. It is clearly not India, and no attempt was made to, make any of the cast look anything other than North Africans. Mm-hmm. So there's that. There's the whole kind of thing. Sure, we'll draw a veil over that. There's the brown face, which is, again, along the lines of some lads trying to, dress as the Cool Runnings fucking sled team for a Halloween fancy dress party in Mullingar. And they're the poor lad. No, I temper this. I say poor lad. The way that Michael Caine deals with the lad eating watermelon on the train.
Oh, it's a shocker. Yeah,
it's a shocker. Yes, you're probably going to try and throw back to the time I ate a slice of chicken tikka in the cinema. But I will say, cinema, well ventilated, train, not so much. If you've ever been on a train in Ireland, you fucking just shudder whenever you see some sham get on Heuston station with a rake of bags from Supermax or whatever it is, and this whole carriage stinks of it. So I could, watermelon, fairly odorless. But also spitting seeds in the floor. Yeah,
not good.
Yeah, no, there's a bit of wish fulfillment there. I wanted to throw it out of the carriage, but I think it's not only that; it's the absolutely disdain with which Peachy treats him as just. It leaves a terrible aftertaste in the mouth.
Yeah, Indian guy gets into the carriage. He's to be fair, he's clearly a dose from the moment he opens his mouth, but then he starts slurping into a watermelon, and Peachy decides Caine's character to just throw him out. As you say, spot of racism in the middle.
Yeah, brown face. That is what the two lads decide for some bizarre reason to have a contract set up. I mean, what are they going to do? The whole contract thing, fucking really, I did not understand the necessity for it. who are they going to sue each other for what? They make like you haven't even set up the plot yet, but so I suppose I better let you go do that.
Will I go do that? Yeah.
Go do that. Go do your. Not my place to tell you your job, but you're kind of off the boil a little bit in this, so you might want to up your game a bit.
Sorry. I'll focus now. Focus center. Center. Okay, plot time. Okay, so the man who will be king. The film. It begins with Rudyard Kipling himself, played by Christopher Plummer, at work in the offices of the Northern Star newspaper in India, when this beggar who's in really rough order lands in and said he's an old acquaintance of Kipling's, a chap called Caine Canon, who's played by Caine. He tells the story of how he and his friend Daniel Dravitt, two complete chancers basically, travelled to the far distant land of Kafiristan. So they had met Kipling 3 years before, who, after bonding with the lads as fellow masons and observing a few scrapes that they got into, witnessed the signing of the contract that Stephen just mentioned there, that sets out the terms of their adventure, basically to travel to Kafiristan and rob the locals 4 ways till Sunday, as Connery says. But the terrain is impossible, but they brave the elements of the locals and they arrive in Kafiristan, where they meet a Gurkha who's called Billy Fish, played by the absolutely fantastic Saeed Jaffrey. And they meet him at the first city they encounter on their travels in Kafiristan. They persuade the local chief to allow him to train his army and set about conquering towns and villages. Connery goes into one of the first battles, happens to get hit by an arrow, but it sticks in his bandolier so he doesn't bleed. So suddenly everyone thinks he's a god. And the son, actually, of Alexander the Great, who was the last white man to set foot in Kafiristan. So Peachy and Dravitt brass it out, and Connery basically poses as a god. They're eventually summoned to the holy city by the high priest, who doubts all of this carry-on. And the priests actually attempt to kill Connery, but when they tear open his tunic, they see a kind of Masonic pendant symbol given by Kipling to the guys before they left. This kind of eye, the all-seeing eye, or whatever it is. So this matches an image that was carved by Alexander the Great when he was in Kafiristan. So they believe him. So they're shown Alexander's treasures, and it's enough to make them rich beyond belief. So they decide to tough it out again for 4 months or so till the weather is right, and then they're going to head for the hills. But in the meantime, Dravitt, Sean Connery's character, actually takes on an actual god complex, decides to marry a girl, Roxanne, played by Shakira Caine, and he wants to stay put. So the friendship splinters. Caine's character makes plans to leave after this wedding, but as Connery goes to kiss Shakira at the wedding ceremony, she bites him, draws blood. The priest's alarmed, the lad's cover is blown. They'd make a run for it. Billy Fish, poor old Billy, gets slaughtered, and Dravitt is caught. They're both caught, and Dravitt is marched to the rope bridge outside the city, where they cut the rope bridge, and he's sent plummeting to his death. And poor old Peachy is crucified, but somehow survives. And they're so amazed that he survives that his life is actually spared. So he returns to India as a beggar, carrying only the severed head, still becrowned, of his friend, which he leaves with Kipling as proof of this story. And that's the film, really. And of course, actually, it struck me before we go into the stuff, it struck me this is in classic fashion. Like, the writer robs the entire story, turns it into a short story that travels through the centuries as a classic, becomes a great movie. And I'm guessing that Peachy Carnahan's family, or Peachy himself, they don't see a gold sovereign for their trouble by typical fucking media.
What was the name of your last book?
I can't recall.
Yeah,
that was actually the name of my last book. I can't recall.
I can't recall.
It's the first in a series of memoirs.
Yes, it's terrible when an author exploits people's stories for their own benefit. It's a disgrace.
It's just abhorrent, frankly. I think absolutely abhorrent. Yeah. Anyway, where do you want to start with this?
How's the kids' book going?
Oh, terribly. Where do you want to start with?
I want to go back to, all right, what do I want to go? Yeah, okay. Brown face and the necessity of brown face. So the two lads decide that the only way that they can get safely through Afghanistan, from India into Afghanistan and into Kafiristan, is that if they black up and assume the roles of a mad priest and his servant. Connery plays the mad priest who does, to be fair, a variety of very entertaining dances.
It's amazing to see Connery dancing like that, isn't it?
Classic pinwheels that, you kind of used to get at the beach years ago. The only thing is, from a blackface, brownface perspective, Connery looks exactly the same. He looks like basically he's been outdoors on a building site for a couple of days. Caine looks turned up. Yeah. Do you like, before you go on, do you like Connery's kind of Rastafarian looking that? It's kind of got the old dreads going. It's kind of like a cross between a Rastafarian and Dan Aykroyd's kind of brown face in Trading Places. Trading Places, yeah, it's not good. Like I don't want to get into the whole, you're overthinking it, like, but I mean, Caine doesn't speak the language, so how the fuck is he supposed to translate, and how do they make their way through? It doesn't really matter.
Apparently, he does speak the lingo. He says
he
says he speaks the lingo. Yeah, he does speak the lingo.
We were robbed of an opportunity to see Caine attempt a genuine Indian accent.
Yeah,
and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Any bit of local lingo would have been fantastic.
Yeah. That would have been fantastic. Anyway, they eventually make their way to the border of Afghanistan. They have to cross this. Kafiristan. They have to cross this river. They go through the river. They leave the horses behind. They use goat bladders, inflated goat bladders, as flotation devices across. They come out. They're back to the normal skin color because apparently this fake tan that they're using, this flash bronzer that they're using, is water soluble. Mm-hmm. So, what else contains water?
What?
Sweat.
Oh, right.
So I'd imagine, like, within an hour of the two lads, if this is something that dissolves the water, the lads are going to be going around with streaks with other as like some poor girl at her debs,
Yeah, a little bit. You're definitely putting this down to you're not putting it down to the lads just spending enough time out in the elements at that stage of the movie now.
I mean, it depends whether or not the bronzer has an active SPF in it or something.
I suppose,
you don't know.
That's true.
And I mean, like, we see all the scenes where they just lovingly apply the fake tan to each other every night.
Yeah, it would have been lovely. It would have been a lovely,
bonding.
A lovely addition to a buddy movie to see them just, gently, softly caressing each other's foreheads and brows with the bronzer.
Yeah, missed opportunity again.
A little bit of a missed opportunity, all right. Anyway, go on with your casual racism. Where are we with that?
Billy Fish gets an awful fucking raw deal here as well.
He does. And actually,
Saeed Jaffrey is excellent in this. But it's against the whole. He speaks English fluently, but then has to, in order to satisfy the audience back home, has to be all, thank goodness and by Jove.
Yes,
it's all fucking cod shit. He speaks English, speaks multiple languages clearly, fluently, and then is reduced to this fucking bullshit. In order to be entertaining.
And actually, there was some issues in real life with racism and Saeed Jaffrey on the set. He just, I'm not sure how sort of, rancidly. It wasn't Burgess Meredith and Hurry Sundown stuff, but it was kind of there was. I think that the tipping point, was he wasn't. The lads, all the actors had chairs to sit on while they were setting something up or whatever, but there was no chair for Saeed Jaffrey. Caine just lost it at that point and got very cross on his behalf and kind of said, show this man some respect, So there had to be lads had to be pulled into line even in that regard, even in real life, not just in the movie. But it is okay, the brown face, and I loved Connery dancing around. Though I have to say, to get past that little bit, just to see it, that's great. You just don't. Maybe it's just me. I don't expect that from Connery.
Levity, yeah, it's very rare that you kind of you see Connery in a role where he's actually allowed to be. I mean, he's basically basically Peachy's the brains, and Danny is the face of the operation. He's the brawn, I guess, to a certain degree.
He's the brawn. He's the heart of it. Like, I think John Heuston, would have made the point to both Caine and Connery that basically he saw Dravid and Carnahan as two halves of the one person. So when they work together, they work, and when they splinter and the friendship falls apart, well, then they inevitably will fall, the pair of them. So yeah, like it's like, Carnahan is Caine, and Caine plays it so well, like just to sort of, that ability he has to be able to just know where to leave the pauses, how to kind of just pace a line. So it's that thing he does. You can see him thinking it out, telling you, Daniel, we've got to do this. This is how it's going to work, and it's just he does it perfectly.
It is, and just like you and your Caine impression. Spot on.
Oh God, we've gone an awful lot of episodes without doing any Caine impressions. We really not
as many as you
slip in. I don't even notice them. Yeah, apologies for the Caine impression, but yeah, look, it's just that, and then you have this kind of elemental element, which is Connery. Like, just this, like he's just, and I would say it's not that he dominates the screen, isn't it? Not like, they play off each other so well. Like, it's like they just click together, but he just has that physical presence. Even though Caine's as tall as him, but he just has more of a physical presence than Connery in film, or than Caine, in the film.
Yeah, I would agree. When you're looking at the screen, it's Connery's more definitely, you understand, but obviously Connery, they're both movie stars, but Connery is a movie idol. He's you know his looks and how he looks on camera essentially. I mean, when you think about it, he looks old as fuck. You know, this is a man who basically once started relatively late in his career, a lot like Caine, went young, diamonds are forever, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It was like, what the fuck happened there? It was like the hair just said, good luck.
Gone.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, amazing. And it struck me watching it as well. Like, he looks old in this film. But it's kind of like, to me, I don't know about you, but to me, it's like, we say Darby O'Gillen and the Little People Connery stroke Bond Connery, right? He's kind of young, okay? But then 10 years later, he's like old Connery in The Man Who Will Be King. And then the aging process seems to slow down a little bit, maybe? Yeah. I don't know. But it's like he goes from young to old.
And then the 80s is kind of the settling ground for him.
The settling ground, yeah. It's mad, isn't it? But I mean, he's just he's just got this magnetic face, and he also has that face that has the look of a guy that could go snap at any moment. Yeah. Which I think in this film is really important. I have no complaints. I mean, we better focus on our man a little bit. I've no complaints about Caine here whatsoever. There's something about him that I really like in this kind of Charlie Croker, Carnahan. I think I mentioned to you there, even Tosh in Too Late, the hero, the medic, the kind of harmless, sort of likely lad that's kind of involved in something way over his head, but kind of coping and surviving on pure neck, There's something about, I don't know, I just really like him in these roles. He's just like, and I don't want to get too cliched about it and say, oh, well, he's playing a Cockney, so look, that's easy for him, a Cockney working class guy. But I don't know, I can't put my finger on it. Maybe you can, I don't know, but there's something about him that's so endearing in these kind of roles now that, I don't know, I think he's fab in this.
I just think it's the way the part is written as well. There's some credit to the script. It's a good tight script. It's a script to be knocking around for 20 odd years. It meant to be originally was a Clark Gable and Humphrey Bogart. Yeah, and couldn't get made. I think that's one of the small drawbacks. It is a little bit dated. So the way this is again 1975. This isn't the kind of typical movie that would have been coming out in 1975. I don't think. If you look what was at the box office at that time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's all kind of out of it's almost coming slightly from a different planet, and we might actually look at that.
It's slightly ananachronistic, like it's
slightly.
Now there's certain things that in the some aspects of the violence and nudity would like you get to see Caine's arse in this, or son of Caine's arse, the nudity as well, both male and female. To be fair, you do get to see Connery's peachy.
You do. It's very dramatic, isn't it? You can kind of tell that Connery was into doing this scene. Like, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, we might come back on that thing about 1975 is an interesting point, because this is also the summer that Jaws came out. To me, The Man Who Will Be King, there's a touch of Indiana Jones about it, that kind of escapist sort of just a really good adventure story, well told. But it doesn't put itself up as a blockbuster at all. Like, it's not.
It's not. No, and it's kind of that epic, but it's really a story about friendship.
Yeah.
But I think there's a real pacing problem with it. I think if you look at it, there's complaints about that we've been too long. Like, I didn't have a problem with the length of what I had. Was a problem with. It's an hour and 30 minutes into the 2 hour and 8 minute movie before Caine actually is, or I keep saying Caine, sorry, before Connery becomes king, and then the final 30 odd minutes are very, very. It's like very, very quick transition from this is a good idea to I have now gone mad with power. Mm-hmm. It's a lot like in Bananas. Where the rebellion is successful, and all of a sudden the former rebel leader is giving proclamations about how from today on everybody who's 15 will now be 16. Yeah. So it was a very quick transition. I don't think they really gave that enough time to breathe. And I think the relationship between him and Roxanne kind of seems a little bit vague as well. It's like he sees her once, and then months later is talk about obviously, because of the contract, he's been hanging for a while, and obviously is in a exclusively male only environment at the Chateau de Monk, up in the hills. So I just think it goes really quick. All this time is spent getting them there and establishing tone and all of that, and then it's kind of the last 30 minutes. So shit, we better get the show on the road here in terms of like things falling to shit for him going mad with power, the friendship splintering, and then them both getting found out, and the end. Essentially, it happens in a very, very quick period of time. I think they could have spent more time on that.
I wouldn't disagree with you. I think it's a very good point. And funny enough, when I was watching it this time around, for the first time, actually, I think that kind of did cross my mind as well. That like maybe it was because the way you can see the time at the bottom, and I was like, Jesus Christ, like. He still hasn't gone mad with power here,
Yeah,
but,
and I think they don't really do anything to establish any potential chip on his shoulder that Daniel has in the first hour and a half of the movie. Like they're both trying to better themselves. They're both trying to rob the country blind in order to make themselves wealthy rather than go back to an honest life in England. Mm-hmm. But none of it. There's no kind of chip on his shoulder from a class perspective. Is that he's going mad with power, wants to be seen as an equal with Queen Victoria, which is fucking nuts,
mad.
And it is genuinely mad, and it's like he literally goes from being a kind of a fairly amiable dumbass to giving out these very wise proclamations as the God King. The next, it's doesn't. One thing that I did love about the movie was the ending. I thought the ending was fantastic. I thought Heuston plays it really well, like a horror scene the night before the wedding. Yeah, especially the noises coming from the temple outside, and then the procession is like something out of a horror movie. Mm-hmm. Is really, really effective. Very unsettling. The way, like Maurice Jarre's theme for this is fairly unremarkable. It's fairly, like epic.
It's based on the old Irish. Yeah, it's based on the old Irish song, "The Minstrel Boy." It's fine.
Which again goes back to the blackface, I suppose. Maybe that's why they were trying that in. But the actual the score to the wedding ceremony is just literally these wailing and ululations from the crowd that are bringing Roxanne up to the dais to be to participate in the marriage ceremony.
Yeah,
and the biting of the cheek and all that is just really effective.
It's really well done,
and the rest of it. Yeah. The ending is my favorite thing about it. I think from the night before the wedding scene to when you look at the end of the close up of the skull with the crown on it. Now the skull has more hair on its head than Connery actually had, so an issue with continuity there. But overall, also, I'm kind of going from here to that. Like young Christopher Plummer as young Rudyard Kipling is the spit of Magnum PI.
Absolutely, Magnum PI with a Bruce Forsyth syrup.
Yeah, it's very. Christopher Plummer had already started his career of replacing people in films as far back as this. Like, so he replaced Richard Burton on this, didn't he?
He did, and there was almost an issue around that because I think I don't know, was it during the filming or before the filming, but there were certainly people in high places who didn't want Christopher Plummer in the film, and it took Caine and Connery to kind of insist that obviously again going back to London in the early 60s, these guys are long-standing friends. So it was they kept him on board. And it's a little bit like saying, this could have been Bogart and Gable. This could have been Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas were also slated for this. Newman and Redford were slated to play Peachy Carnahan and Daniel Dravin. And it was actually Paul Newman who said to John Heuston, look, you need to get two British actors, and I think he actually recommended Caine and Connery. And it's kind of, when you look at the movie now, it's kind of impossible to imagine that, God bless them all.
I was thinking, how would you cast it today? And I'd go for the cast from 21 Jump Street remake. It'd be Channing Tatum as Connery and Jonah Hill as Peachy. Caine and Peachy as well. I think that would be...
That's not completely ridiculous.
That'd be good.
That'd be all right. I'd watch that. The only concern you'd have there is that it would be kind of like everybody just thinks this is going to be hilarious. And this, it's a funny film, but it's not a comedy. Like, but no, I'd go with. I would go with them. Caine performances, Caine kind of moments in this. Was there any ones that you liked particularly? Anything that stood out to you in terms of scenes or anything like that with him?
I like the scene with the two of them in the governor's office towards the start, where
they get pulled in and they're nearly deported, for being chancers.
Which Caine maintains was completely improvised between himself and Connery.
Really,
which I again take with a kind of a pinch of salt. But I do know Connery was not notorious, was famous for taking, once he signed up to Boo, would meet with writers and sit down and work through his own lines and work with ways of improving, obviously, his own dialogue at the same time. But it's a great scene, and it's really well hats on and hats off, really well kind of choreographed. Both of them are excellent in that. I think towards the end, where he's near tears when Daddy takes his swan dive off the bridge.
Yeah.
Detriments, you call us? Detriments? Well, I want to remind you it was detriments like us that built this bloody empire, and he is out of the bloody Raj. That's on. About turn. By the left. Quick march.
It's very good. Now, the makeup stuff is really hammy, though. You know, talk about bitching. He bitches about the fact that he had to get up early, and he didn't become an actor to get up early in the morning. It took
this was in real life, we're talking, right?
Yeah, real life. Yeah, it took 2 hours to apply the makeup. And he shot his scenes, and he went back home, and then they saw they look at the footage to decide no, he had to come back out and do it again. He was fucking disgusted with that.
This is the makeup I presume he had to apply as the beggar who looks completely dehydrated and his one eye is gone and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. That's all fairly, and it's all fairly Caine. That's actually probably the worst Caine performance in the movie. Is the whole lippy beggar bit. It's all very much. You can imagine him coming on. You can imagine him coming on stage left in a local production. You know, it's kind of, it's a little bit. Yeah, it's not.
My eye is blind. My leg is weak.
It's just not as good as able-bodied Caine. That's the it's suffering by comparison. I love the bit, like, I mean, there's a few, like, I did enjoy, I have to say, the bit at the start with Caine as the train bore. So he gets on looking for Christopher Plummer's character. He gets on looking for Kipling, and he sits in, and eventually they get talking, and he's exactly like one of those train bores you hear ranting on about, basically saying, do you know what? There's too much government in India. If they backed off a small bit and let honest Joes like you and me run the place and make our few bob, I tell you what, boy, we'd make a hell of a lot more of this place than they are already. Isn't that right? Aren't I right? Aren't I? Huh? Aren't I right? Aren't I? And
that's at the stage of the conversation where you take out the old headphones and put them on. And you just go, I just got to listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Just listen to the Caine podcast here. Yeah, like I love it though, because it just we've all sat opposite that fool. Like,
is this the greatest Freemason movie ever made?
Well, off the top of my head, I can't think of another one unless you want to.
Well, I suppose Lethal Weapon 1 and 2, famously. National Treasure, actually.
National Treasure, of course.
That has a Freemason vibe to it. I can't think of any others.
Does the Da Vinci Code have a Freemason vibe to it? No, I'm getting them mixed up.
Oh, that's Illuminati.
Sorry, scratch that. No, it is by far and away. And it's the one where, like, the Freemason Code theme runs through the whole thing, from the relationship between Dravitt and Carnahan to the relationship they have with Kipling to the link to Alexander the Great, because Kipling makes there's all sorts of casual references early on in the film that come to fruition later on. For example, that the Freemasons were actually active before the time of Christ, and this is what saves Dravitt in Kafiristan. So I mean, by a mile it is. Let me see what else. I mean, John Heuston and the lads seem to have had this fantastic relationship. This seems to have been, I mean, John Huston's career, obviously, look, he was already a made guy at this stage in terms of acting and directing and all that. But this was an important movie for him, I'd say, in terms of, obviously, it was something he wanted to make for many years, but it was also considered afterwards like to be the best movie he had made in about 20 odd years. But he seems to have had a great relationship with the lads. Yeah.
He's a director's director, or an actor's director's director. Of course, he's director's director. He's an actor's, very much an actor's director, and he just let the lads off and do their thing.
Kind of confused Caine a bit, that didn't it?
Did it? Okay. Like, was he wandering off set and into traffic? I don't know what's happening. Up is down, down is up.
Okay.
Where's my bum?
Okay, I just go back and I just finish that point for Stephen. Yeah, and that actually confused Caine a bit. Like, they had a very close relationship. Like, Caine has described Heuston as a father figure to him, but he was a very minimal director. I mean, at one stage, Caine asked him during the filming, like, why so little actual direction? And Heuston's response was, Michael, and whatever about doing a Michael Caine accent, I'm certainly not doing a John Heuston one. He said, you get paid a great deal of money to do this, so you don't need me to tell you what to do. So he just let him at it. And they seem to, look, I think he obviously would have known and seen the relationship between Connery and Caine anyway. Long-standing friend, 21 years at that stage friendship. He just let them play off each other. And, reading Caine's books about sort of the technicalities in terms of when they were on screen, they were, as they say, very generous to each other in terms of giving each other space on screen, giving each other room to maneuver within the camera shot itself, and to be seen as well, and to be equal partners in it. It's just a match made in complete another heaven, really. Do you want to hear any Caine Connery stuff? Or do you have any? Come on, you should have.
We'll come back to one of my favorite
topics.
Dysentery.
Oh, lovely, yes.
Caine maintains that he was suffering from dysentery through the majority of the shoot. Every scene was him basically acting through gritted teeth. Complained about food being let out, so the flies got at the first go at his dinner or at his lunch before he got to. So the name for the mobile toilets on set is, I don't know, just for this movie or just in general, is the Honey Wagon, and Caine needed to perform his toilet in the Honey Wagon, went there, and the whole thing was covered in flies. And he's like, and he lost. He figuratively lost his shit, not literally. I came out to the guy running it. The guy running it came up with a good workaround. He said, "Look, come back at lunch because all the flies would got over to the catering table." Which he did.
Oh, that must have cheered him up. That must have done the trick for him. Oh my God. Yeah, he said it was like the best set he was ever on, apart from the dysentery. And I have to say, actually, I mean, we have made it, and we probably shouldn't be, body judging or whatever that expression is, but we have made reference to the fact that he's looked, a bit more lived in the last few movies. I actually thought he looked a bit svelte in this one. He definitely, there's stuff running out of him. He looks a bit more, I wouldn't say gaunt, no, but he's definitely a bit lighter.
You wouldn't recommend it as a diet plan, though, would you?
Oh God, no! It's a bit too Gillian McKeith for my liking, So, the Caine and Connery. What can you say? Caine met Connery first in 1954. Connery was on the chorus line for South Pacific, which again, I shouldn't really find that odd. I really shouldn't, but I do. But there he was. They were mates for years. Connery had parties. What he used to call the parties? Connery's
pushy parties.
Say that again.
Pushy parties.
Pushy
parties for your pushy.
Pushy
you bring
party.
You bring pushy to the pushy parties.
Is that like for really demanding people? Pushy parties. I'm going to make you have fun.
Come on, Michael. It's time to smash that push.
He had parties called "Bring a Bottle and a Bird" parties. Oh my God Almighty! I just did a Connery impression. He had parties called "Bring a Bottle and a Bird" parties, and I like Caine saying here, like, Caine didn't always have a bottle, so he brought 2 birds. I'll be honest with you, and by the way, they're Caine's words. I don't know. I've never heard it working in that order. It's usually a case of bringing 2 bottles, to be honest with you. In those, back in the day, anyway. But
you're lucky to get 1 bottle.
No, yeah, just let me
bottle
in.
Bottle and a bird party. That's real in-betweener stuff, isn't it?
Isn't it just? But can you imagine Connery and Caine out on the town in the early 60s? Oh my God. One night, Caine tells a story about going out with him. He said, Connery is just kind of this force of nature. He said he just held Connery's coat while he kicked the shite out of 4 lads. I think there was 2 girls with Connery and Caine, and the 4 lads were giving a bit of jip to the girls. So Connery just had enough of that, so he just kicked the shit out of the 4 lads. Caine was just standing there with his jacket, So, wow. But sports Caine, touch of sports Caine with Connery and Caine. So, yeah, absolutely. As you know, Sean Connery was an avid golfer. Caine, not so much. And Connery actually tried to teach him golf once. But the lesson didn't go well. It actually ended up with Connery just smashing golf club, breaking him in frustration at Caine sporting ability. He obviously hadn't watched Horizon Sundown.
Call this detriments. Well, I want to remind you it was detriments like us that built this bloody empire, and he is out of the bloody rug. That's all. Detriments, you call this? Detriments. Detriments, you call this? Detriments.
Are you done with your little stroll down Anecdote Avenue?
Oh God, no! But please, I'll come back to my anecdotes.
we need to peruse the other side of the Caine coin here and discuss Shaq IRA's performance here.
Shaq IRA, Shakira, the missus, yeah. Well, what do you think?
No, I'm asking you.
Oh well, okay. Well, I thought she was good. No, I mean, look, these things have to be put into context. She didn't even have a line. She had one word, which was to say her own name, which is Roxanne. And I'm not even sure she said that because she puts a veil up to her mouth when she says it. And it does sound dubbed. But I'm not saying it's not her voice. I don't know. But she's fine. I mean, the story behind that was, Tessa Dahl, Roald Dahl's daughter, was meant to get the part. Poor Tessa Dahl lost weight, got her teeth capped, got ready to rock, and then John Heuston... I just said John Heuston. John Heuston turns around and says, no, I'm going a different way with it. And kind of weirdly to me, for a show that was 20 years in gestation, he picks the Roxanne character over dinner, while they're shooting the movie, Connery, Caine and John Heuston convince Shakira to take the part. I thought she was fine. She was good. I loved at the wedding scene. She's brilliant. She so obviously as a mere mortal marrying a god, she thinks that as soon as the wedding night occurs, she's basically just going to be incinerated by this god once they have sex. She's just going to disappear into a cloud of ash.
And to be fair, working through the maths of that, it's been a good year since he's had any relations, so she's
it's possible. It's definitely the physics say it's possible, but she lets her eyes roll back in her head and she does this whole, so she kind of half fainting going up. I thought it was very good.
Yeah, which was improvised on set on the morning of it because one of the local women who was basically went into a trance at the bottom of the steps, and Heuston convinced Shakira to kind of do the same thing as she was going up the steps. So able to improvise a little bit on the hoof, which is good as well. Never acted again, mind you. That was it for Shakira.
Why would you? Go in at the top and come out at the top? Great stuff. She was great. Some of the local actors, there was a couple of guys in particular caught my eye. I thought the guy who plays Utar, which is the first chieftain they meet, the first guy and they train up his army, I thought he was brilliant. And he's only in it for about 15 minutes, but I thought he was fantastic. It's a great story if you'll indulge me.
If I must.
I keep it short. About with the guy who plays the high priest, and the guy who plays the high priest in the film, Kafu Salim, his name is Karoum Ben Boui in real life. Apparently, and look, I know your view on these kind of anecdotes, but look, I'm just going to tell it anyway, right? Apparently, the man was 100 years old, maybe 104 years old at the time. Heuston saw him. He was a night watchman at a local olive grove outside of Marrakesh where they shot the film. He saw
not
this
like
guy.
A local Olive Garden or anything like that, no.
Not as far as I know. Okay. I'm not au fait with the detail. So he saw this guy and said, "Yeah, that's my high priest." So again, guy he'd never acted before, brings him in. The poor guy was turning up on set, right, and they noticed he was kind of falling asleep. And they thought, well, he's 100 years old, but they kind of went, "Are you all right?" And it turns out that he kept doing the night job. He kept doing the night watchman gig at the local Olive Grove while acting during the day. So they had to kind of convince him, no, you're fine. We're going to pay you enough that you won't need to do that job. It is grand, So that was kind of amazing. He is an amazing looking character. And I suppose when they get to Kafiristan, the fact that they don't look like Indians isn't so much of an issue because you're obviously moved thousands of miles away from India. He looks the part of the high priest.
He does, and that's a very good story, and I'm sure it is true.
You're pouring your cold water on the dust of another Caine related.
I'd say your man was probably in his 70s, had no birth certificate, and wasn't keeping keeping an eye on the years as they passed by. Look, dear. One thing I did want to say is that the most difficult thing to do in terms of suspension of disbelief here is that there was a country in that part of the world that the English said, "No, we're not going to invade this place." First we kind of going, "This is bullshit." Two lads could just swan in there. This untouched part of the world where there are legendary treasures. Nah, you're grand. We'll head off somewhere else.
Yeah, we're just going to ignore that. Actually, just the last thing on Caine and Connery. Do you find it amazing that they were never? They're in A Bridge Too Far in a couple of years' time again, but they're not on screen ever together. Not anywhere near each other in the film. Do you find it amazing that they never doubled up again in the film?
Maybe ask me that question after the next 5 or 6 podcasts. Let's see why Connery may not want to have his career in any way tainted by Caine.
Fair enough. I think it's incredible. I mean, they just click.
I think we when we're looking at, I think Caine's career kind of ascended at the same time where Connery was about to tap out.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
And there wouldn't have the whole box office draw of having them in as 2 leads would have gone by the 80s,
Possibly right. You're possibly right. Anyway, they did it once and it was fantastic. Reception. Movie was a big hit. Caine actually gets absolutely hammered in Variety, in particular, in the review in Variety
wouldn't pay any
for hamming it up.
That rag.
I know. I mean,
even to this day, the reviews are fucking dreadful.
Well, it's a thing that kind of seems to be the one thing that was held against the movie at the time, was that Caine was accused of overacting, just taking it a few steps too far. I personally don't see it. Do you see it? No, I didn't see it either. Got 4 Oscar nominations: Best Writing for John Heuston and Gladys Hall. Best art direction, best costume design, best film editing. Didn't win any of them. But like you were saying earlier, I think it is a really interesting point to make, is that, this is the year that Jaws comes out. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest just sweeps the Oscars. Dog Day Afternoon is a big hit. Let me just give you the best director nominations that year for the Oscars, right? You had Fellini for Amarcord, Kubrick for Barry Lyndon, Robert Altman for Nashville, Sidney Lumet for Dog Day Afternoon, and Milos Forman for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I mean, you can see, the old Mark Twain truly represented the hinge of history. That's something.
Yeah, it's a real new way of cinema is well and truly embedded there. This is something that's like a throwback. As good as it is, you can't imagine. I don't know, from an audience perspective. I mean, it's all well say the Oscars, but from a box office perspective, it'd be interesting to see what Jaws obviously would have been. I would imagine the number one of the box office in 1975.
I had a look. I had a look at the numbers, and I can't be sure whether this was for the year that was in it, or is it what span of time? Okay, but in the US, The Man Who Would Be King in this list would have made $11 million. Jaws is $125 million. Jaws. It's just, but that's a phenomenon. It was just a phenomenon at the time. But you're right.
Yeah, if you look at the top 25 movies, this again, it would have maybe the Hindenburg, that would be kind of another kind of throwback movie. But yeah, Jaws, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Shampoo, Dog Day After, the Return of the Pink Panther. God fucking help me.
Wow.
Yeah. Tommy, fucking hell. Tommy
and Mark got nominated for an Oscar that year.
Jesus Christ,
for that performance.
Awful movie.
Yeah, but it's a very eclectic, different looking top 10, top 20 list of movies. And Jaws, the fact that Jaws is on top of it kind of tells you where it's going to go. We know now it's telling us where movies and where box office returns are going next. And I just said, The Man Who Would Be King. I do think The Man Who Would Be King has that spirit of Indiana Jones in the sense of just like a great old kind of adventure story told well. But it's different. It is. You're right. It's different. It's a buddy movie. It's a bit of class. There's a bit of class issues there. There's obviously colonial racism. You can look back at the British Empire trying to impose itself in place if you want to. It depends how deep you want to dig with The Man Who Will Be King. I think there's something there for everybody.
Themes for Houston in terms of power corrupting, people going basically treasure. I mean, go back to the treasured Sierra Madre in terms of people just losing their minds over gold.
Yeah.
So, also that could be just bullshit.
No, I think you have it. I mean, I think it's in that Houston vein, and I think it was 20 years in the making, and those are the teams he was interested in back then, and they were still the teams he was interested in 1975 when the thing came out. So, I suppose, is there anything else we want to talk about here? I think we've kind of pretty much done it, have we?
I think we're done.
Yeah, marks out of Caine for Caine's performance, whatever about the movie. What would you give him for this?
9.
Yeah,
I'm taking one off for the whole one-eyed beggar bit. It's very hammy.
It's just I may still say it's one of his great performances. It's just, I mean, we gave Carter 10, we gave Charlie Croker 10 in the Italian Job. They're 10s. This is just It's not even a criticism. It's a 9. It's a fantastic performance. Yeah, so that was Sean Connery, Michael Caine, The Man Who Would Be King. Deep breath out. That was lovely to watch. It was lovely to watch. So now we leave the mighty peak of The Man Who Would Be King, and oh God, just brace yourself for another fantabulous adventure with Dr. Horatio Hufnagel. Do you want to know the name of the next one?
Yeah, I guess, but I mean, at this stage, it's just like, yeah, whatever.
I know.
It's not like you go to, and he went on to win an Oscar for his next film. You just know straight away.
We know.
You know, back suckling onto the teat of fucking mediocrity.
I know. I know very, very little about this film that's coming up next, but the name alone has me just worried. The next film, we're moving into 1976 now, is called Peeper.
You mean you haven't looked for your daughter since 1918?
I've been busy.
I think it's a comedy.
On paper, yes. In practice, maybe not.
Yeah, I just want to stay here. Can I just stay watching this film? Just talking about this film. I'll catch up with you around Escape to Victory. How's that? Is that fair?
It's great. You just wang on by myself for 40 minutes on paper. Yeah. Sounds like a plan.
You're well able to wang on for 40 minutes and more, I'd say. Not bothering you.
Oh, God.
Oh, well. No, look, let's end on a high. Look, this is great. Look, it was lovely to watch The Man Who Would Be King and pay tribute to two great performances from two of those great, iconic British actors. And, long may it be watched.
I'm looking at the poster now. Back in 47, a gun was a Roscoe, a private eye was a peeper, and murder was only okay as long as nobody got hurt.
Okay,
in
stop.
Fact,
I'm going to stop you.
There's no more text on the poster. It's like a fucking book. In fact, anything was okay with this peeper on the case because he wouldn't even know who done it, even if he'd done it himself.
Oh, good God. Do you know what? One thing we didn't mention in this conversation that will, again, refresh your palate after looking at that poster is look at the poster. Look at the poster for The Man Who Would Be King. It tells you exactly what this film is about. And it is one of those ones that, yeah, I want to see that. And I'm glad we did. And it was just as good as I've always remembered it. Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michael. As always, you are wonderful, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to be in your company. Join us, as always, next week on the podcast. If you feel like liking and subscribing, you may do so, because that obviously will make sure we earn many, many more euros than the thousands that are already pouring into the Marco Caine coffers. It is up for questions at Marco Caine 2 on Twitter. And if you, especially if you want to go and kind of watch Peeper along with us and, get a question in there as to, again, why are you doing this? What do your families think? Are they still talking to you?
Yeah.
And when is Mick's kids' book version of The Bloody Field coming out?
Yeah.
All very pertinent questions.
All very valid questions. All very valid questions.
Until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's it for this week's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. Maybe leave a comment. Only nice ones, though. Mean comments will make Alfie cry, and no one wants to see that. The Marco Caine podcast is written, researched, and presented by Stephen Black and Michael Foley, and edited by Andrew Foley. Music is composed by Stephen Black. If you'd like to get in touch, you'll find us on Twitter at Mallow News and at Marco Caine 2. And if you enjoyed this episode, you'll find all the rest wherever you get your podcasts. The Marco Caine is a Mallow News 2 Cubes production. See you next time.